we were with Orbia. Orbia is not, I think, a brand that it's known in Israel. If we'll say Netafim, however, I think almost everyone in Israel will know the drip irrigation. So Orbia is basically the holder, the mother company, if you like, of Netafim. And we have with us Cristina Gil, who is the corporate vice president on sustainability, and Kacy Karlen, who is in charge of content and creativity. And the discussion that we'll hold today will start with the new impact mark that Orbia has launched quite recently. The impact mark is, I would say, a moving logo. We are all very familiar, we're all very accustomed with a logo that is there to stay. It's sort of fixed. Orbia's new logo is actually constantly in motion. And I think, Kacy, we'll start with you. Or first of all, let's say hello to both of you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Hello, thanks so much for having us. Delighted to be here.
A pleasure to have you both. And Kacy, I think we'll start with the story of the impact mark. It's quite an unusual thing. I think you're the only company, as far as I know, who uses kind of an in-motion logo. So how come and how does it work? What does it symbol, sort of, that movement?
Brilliant. Thank you so much for asking that question. And you are indeed correct that it is a first of its kind asset from any company. So a bit about the approach that went into the impact mark and what it represents. I often find that describing what something is not is a powerful way to differentiate what it is. So the impact mark to us is not just the logo mark. It's really the first of its kind performance benchmark that transparently and visually tracks our year-over-year progress on 6 key performance indicators that matter to us and span the categories of our people, planet, and profit impact. And these indicators each make up the 3 respective rungs that constitute our impact mark. So you can think of them as a 3-year progress tracker, and they span from increasing women in management in the people category to reducing waste generated in the planet category to evolving to an innovative solutions provider in the profit category. They touch our global activities. They're relevant to the work of each of our commercial brands, including Netafim, and perhaps most important, they indicate how we know we're advancing on our journey to advance life around the world, which is our purpose. As we progress in our work together, the rings that make up our impact mark will expand to what we want to see as a more perfect circle, ultimately. As a performance benchmark, if we're thinking of it in that term, the impact mark really drives our collective action internally and says externally to our investors, partners, and the world at large, Orbia is about progress and is moving boldly forward in demonstrating that a large and global industrial company can, as our CEO, Danielle Martinez-Valle, often eloquently puts it, do well by doing good. So we think this is a really powerful asset to rally our collective efforts around the 3 Ps of sustainability and allow us to achieve our very ambitious goals and purpose.
And that's indeed, I think, very powerful. Also, a way, I would imagine, to connect various stakeholders. You've quoted on your website, alongside the impact mark, a sentence that I would quote now by Max Planck, the renowned physicist. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think that's a bold statement on behalf of a corporation who normally would want stability and not necessarily, look for too many things to change. So how, sort of in essence, the whole concept of the impact mark is integrated into the day-to-day sort of business strategy?
Absolutely. That's a brilliant question. And I love that you picked up on the Max Planck quote, because it really indicates how committed we are to, looking at ourselves very transparently and then projecting to the world transparently what we're intending to do. There's something I think very, very different about that from a company like Orbia. So for the most part, Orbia's businesses and commercial brands had already been working towards the goals that that constitute our 6 impact mark performance indicators, and had been undergoing various programs and initiatives to see maximum positive impacts for people, planet, and profit. While the mark itself is a new invention in that it came with our becoming Orbia in 2019, it's actually shaped by goals that have already been embraced on our collective journey to become more resilient, customer-centric, and future fit in our work as we're progressing as a force in the world and for the world and impacting human lives. Importantly, I'll say, however, the performance objectives and compensation structures for our executive leadership team are tied to making progress on these indicators. So there's a very clear personal incentive and leadership incentive for our leaders to uphold Orbia's values and our purpose-led transformation through the impact mark, and make sure that their teams are aligning around making progress on these indicators. So we've embedded it into our business strategy and day-to-day practice, and it certainly captures year over year the sum total of our efforts and our work in and for the world. So very much integrated into our long view as well as our daily work.
And in terms of sort of integrating it, sort of right now, what would be, what are the milestones that you've set in terms of the integration into the business process? You've mentioned executive compensation, which is always a very powerful tool. Are there any others that you could share?
There absolutely are other ways that we're integrating this into our daily experience. So what's really fascinating to note is this past year, despite our very challenging global situation, we created this company-wide effort to enable all of our 22,000 plus employees to see themselves as part of moving the mark and making an impact. So we call this our Commitment Mark campaign. And we hosted workshops around the globe that were attended by over 9,000 employees across 50 countries around explaining the stories and actions that undergirded our impact mark, and inviting our people to make a commitment to one of our 6 indicators and plan for how they and their teams in their daily lives could take action to move the mark in the right direction. And we saw massive traction from our employee community. I believe we had over 3,200 commitment marks generated as part of this experience. And it really set the rubric for how we're thinking about activating our most powerful asset, our people, to make exponential progress on these indicators in the year ahead. So right now we're in the process of planning an internal activation strategy where we invite our teams from across the world to plan programs and initiatives that will help them make even more progress around the indicators that matter to them and matter to us collectively. So it's becoming even more integrated and key to our work in 2021 and beyond.
Fantastic. So we'll definitely keep on following, and we'll obviously be able to see how the sort of the logo shifts in terms of performance and its factor. Cristina, I think it's time to bring you in. If we're looking at a different way to look at things, it seems as if you're part of embodiment of that. Cristina joined Orbia about 2 years ago, right? Coming from the environmental movement in the US, the Nature Conservancy, to name one of the organizations that you've been with. This is a very untypical move, I think, especially moving into a sort of infrastructure plastics sort of company. So how is it working? Is it working well? Are you happy with the move?
I did not regret 1 minute the move. I'm very happy. It's fantastic to have this platform to be able to achieve some goals that are important for the world.
And what did it bring to your role at Orbia? Obviously, if we look at the outcomes, Orbia is already listed on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. There's a higher level of transparency in other indices. You've set goals. There's a sustainability strategy. Maybe we'll start with that. What's the essence of the sustainability strategy?
Very good question, Momo. So I think just like the impact market keeps on evolving, our sustainability strategy as well. So one of the things I did when I started at Orbia was really get to know the company. Coming from the nonprofit world, you understand change is hard, change takes time, and it requires a lot of patience. So coming in and rolling out a strategy on day one is not the best way to rally a 22,000 employee company, very industrial, chemical on one end and manufacturing on the other side, that was in turn transforming itself. So I really took the time to get to know the company, to get to know individuals, to understand what the company had done historically in terms of impacting people's lives, in terms of being responsible about the environment, and try to find what were the common trends, what was relevant to the business, what was very close to people's hearts. And we started looking at what made sense. And there's a number of parallel processes we did. We yes, of course, the learning, the traveling, the talking to people, but also harnessing data, analyzing data, improving our data collection, and then conducting a materiality assessment. As you know, all sustainability professionals, it's very important to conduct a materiality assessment to know what is material to your business and give the right focus to sustainability. And yes, materiality assessment was very important to build the impact market. It fed they feed into each other. So those were the basics. And once we understood that, then we developed a social responsibility strategy, and we are also developing very specific goals on the environmental side, moving towards the circular economy.
So what did you sort of come up with in terms of the materiality assessment? What are the fundamentals that you believe that are part of Orbia's sustainability sort of journey and commitment? Actually, I would talk on both.
Very good question. And more than my own belief, I do come from environmental conservation and education, and you would think I would have a bias to impose that, but of course I have to be respectful of what is important to our business and to the people at Orbia. So front and center in our materiality assessment came safety and health. So that's very important. And we have a vice president of safety who's really improving our safety and standardizing and taking us, much higher levels in terms of our practices. Community engagement was really important also in our materiality assessment. Emissions, and in emissions, it fully encompasses all types of emissions. So it includes obviously greenhouse gas emissions, and that's why we've made very bold commitments in that sense. Resiliency, solutions for resilience. It has a lot to do with the type of businesses we're in, right? Netafim allows for resilience in the countryside, in farmland. And then we have other brands that allow for resilience. For instance, one of our brands, Duraline, produces the conduits where you insert fiber optics. So very relevant to 5G, to ICT, to this Zoom interview that you're conducting. And Wavin has solutions for resilience for cities, for stormwater management, for water management in general, infrastructure. So what was very powerful of the materiality assessment, we were able to conduct a materiality by business groups. So we're 5 business groups. Then we aggregated the data, and we have one Orbia materiality, but also Netafim has its own materiality, and the other business groups. It really allows our peers in the business groups to focus and contextualize what their sustainability should look like for their specific business group, and then how to tie it up to the Orbia vision of sustainability.
Fascinating, and I like the way I think the Israeli audience would go with those three material issues that you've pointed out, as they're very much connected to the work itself. You've started with health and safety, and then continued with community engagement, and then obviously emissions. But the range that you've arranged them, I think, will speak a lot to the Israeli audience. Did COVID affect sort of in any way that process? Is it altering the sustainability strategy or goals in any way?
Well, I think I never want to say there are positives to COVID or silver linings, because it has been a very challenging time for the world. And you know, it has really affected all of us. That said, it provided a space for collaboration that otherwise wouldn't have happened, right? Because we're all traveling so much given the spread of the company. So it allowed to host meetings and workshops, albeit virtually, that really advanced building the strategy at a higher speed. And also, I think it helped bring a different focus in many of us to be more focused on social impacts and the health of our workers and our community. So we had, for instance, the most successful employee giving campaign in Orbia's history. We've made the largest contribution to a global nonprofit in Orbia's history to help, obviously, with COVID efforts. We advanced. We have two very ambitious goals on the environmental side. We have more than two, but two are key ones, which is aiming for carbon neutrality towards 2050 and under a science-based target, mode. And we're building those science-based targets, and then reaching zero waste to landfill, because we do want to become a circular company. So it's very easy. Or not easy, but setting goals is only the first step. Figuring out how to get there, and in a conglomerate like ours, it's quite challenging to build those action plans. That's a much bigger step. This year was fantastic in terms of being able to really go the extra length, harnessing that data, analyzing it, getting the teams together, building the capacity, the understanding, the agreement, to put together those action plans towards carbon neutrality and zero waste, for instance. I do find that COVID and I wish we didn't need COVID for this, but I have found that not only at Orbia but in other companies and in the sustainability world, it has really accelerated some processes in very good ways.
So we did manage to turn some lemonade out of the lemon of COVID, which is good news. We're wrapping up, so I would like to thank you for being here with us today. There's more about Netafim on the channel, on various work that Netafim is doing in Israel, and we'll be in touch. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for having us, Momo. I hope
Thank you so much.
In Israel.
Absolutely. So see you soon in Israel. Thanks a lot.